Welcome to 28 Days and Beyond.
The show where we talk about our history, our heritage, and our culture.
I'm Amari.
I'm Kharisma. Welcome.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm all right. How about yourself?
Good.
That's what's up. What is that, mustard? It looks nice.
Yes, we're actually in the same family.
This is copper.
Whatevs.
Serious topic, though, all joking aside. We actually do have a serious topic today, you know. And that is, healthcare and healthcare access, particularly around the world.
Yes.
Right, and focusing specifically on maternal health access, right? We know that in this country, the infant mortality rate of black people is extremely high.
Yes.
Maternal mortality rate is also extremely high. When you take that outside, that's in this country, right, a so-called developed country, right, that black people are still measuring at the, the lowest sort of rungs of all this, indicators. But outside of this country, right, in, places of Africa, of Central and South America, we're talking about folks who don't have access to basic medical care, right? You know, there are people in this world, children who die from diarrhea.
Wow.
Like, think about that.
Yeah, when
right?
you think about it, it's insane.
Yeah. So I think that, today we're going to be talking about this and a whole bunch of other issues that are related, but I wanted to, bring it to the people on the front end and let them know this is going to be a pretty serious topic.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with any?
Yes, and there have been a lot of discussions, particularly here in America, about not only the mortality rate for African American women when they're giving birth, but also this notion that our tolerance for pain is greater than our counterparts. And the results of those, I think on the forefront of that conversation has been, people like Serena Williams.
Right.
But on a personal level, I know a number of black women who have had similar experiences where their pain, their experience was not taken seriously and resulted in life-threatening situations, which is crazy.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
But I think there are always a number of ways to look at things. And for our own sanity, I like to try and find, the sort of hopeful aspect of things. And for me, the hopeful aspect is that there are people who are actively working to obviously raise awareness about issues like this, but also working towards solutions.
Yeah.
So today's guest will certainly be addressing some of the work that's being done in parts of the world to provide some solutions.
So today our guest is Caleb Lucky, and we're going to be talking about healthcare for women around the world and a number of other topics. So we'll be back with more 28 Days and Beyond right after this.
Welcome back to 28 Days and Beyond. We're joined now by Caleb Lucky.
Welcome, Caleb.
Hello.
What's up, Caleb?
How you guys doing?
Doing all right.
That's good.
All right. So you know what we're talking about today.
Yes.
Healthcare access around the world. What is some of your experience with this topic?
Well, it is very personal to me. So for one, this year, being a student at Villanova, I am co-directing this year's film. It is called Carrying Tomorrow, and it is a documentary short that is centered around women's health, access to safe surgery, kind of women empowerment in that realm. And specifically, we went over there to Ethiopia, and it was very challenging. The experiences were very rough, but life-changing in a way. To see certain living conditions, to see the poverty on that level is of course eye-opening, but very humbling. To see poverty here in the States is very different once you leave these walls, and it's wild to see the healthcare system, the way people are treated, the way women are treated. It's kind of disgusting in a way. But it's good to see that you have these people that make it a point, that are living in these communities, that want to help and keep the backbones of these communities healthy and safe, because they run their community and they take care of their families, they take care of everyone. And seeing that was amazing, but it was like, why is this happening? It's like, you know the stats that are happening with infant mortality rates, or women's health here in America, and you're like, well, if the poverty is at such a higher rate outside of these walls, like what can we do to change that? But nobody really wants to do that, right? There's this deeper issue of like power and privilege, right? And it's something that our class, we had to discuss before we went over there. And it was like, what are these people doing with all this power and this knowledge around healthcare, around health, right? What are they doing with this knowledge? Are they actually helping people, or are they using it to gain money or to gain some type of power to control people or to have this upper hand on people? And it's disgusting when you see that in action, right? And to me, I know as a co-director, it's kind of our mission as a whole, as a collective production company, right? We're trying to help share the stories of these mothers and these women, that not only does their pain matter and do we hear what they're saying, but this needs to change and this needs to stop. Like, we need to help the Black women in our community here in America, but also outside of our walls. Like, it has to change.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what were some of the experiences you had just, meeting these women, seeing the dynamic where you were? What was it like for you to see some of the setups at the hospitals or the medical facilities that were there?
Boy, it was wild. The facility wasn't as renovated as you would see here, but in its own way, there was a certain type of beauty with it, because you would see how kind of maybe wasn't as clean, right? Or they didn't have all the latest technology or the latest equipment, but you would still see this beauty of these men and women sacrificing day in and day out to save lives, right? At any cost. And it was just amazing to see not everyone have the latest equipment or the latest technology or the same amount of hands on deck ready to go, right? You saw this community, you saw these groups of people working together to really to make sure that women wouldn't have to suffer with a cesarean section.
Wow.
To make sure that women wouldn't have to, or children wouldn't have to die of diarrhea. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, the simple diseases that we deal with here, and it's like, oh, just go down the street, go to CVS, go pick up some medication.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
The
Like,
access is not there.
the access is not there, and
Well,
that's
we definitely want to get more into the access, and we definitely want to hear more about the community aspect of it. So we're going to take a break, but we'll be back with more 28 Days and Beyond.
And we're back on 28 Days and Beyond with Caleb Lucky. So Caleb, your documentary focuses on, two women in particular, but also the hospital and that community. They're doing some really interesting and creative things out there. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so you said our documentary is focused around two women, specifically in Dangla. It's kind of a rural town in Ethiopia, about an hour away from Bahir Dar. And our two characters, specifically the two mothers that we are following, their names are Fernus and Gojam. And Fernus had a abdominal obstruction, and Gojam was suffering from hemorrhaging, and she lost a crazy amount of blood. It was just insane. And both of those women were saved by one doctor in particular, whose name is Amsalu. And it's interesting because over there they don't use the term doctor; they say surgical emergency officer, I believe. And so it's interesting when you find out specifically about his training and how he got to where he's at. Very unconventional, not the traditional way of learning or of that path of becoming a doctor like we know. You take classes, you go to school 8 years, maybe whatever. But it's interesting because they have this program, it's called a mentorship program. And it's not traditional in the way we would think, their educational system is, but Dr. Amsalu would tell us stories of him saving lives through a FaceTime call. Him calling his mentor in the middle of like a life or death situation, and his mentor, whatever time at night, right? And he would call his mentor on FaceTime or via the phone, right? And he's asking his mentor, what should I do to save this person's life, right? In particular, specifically for Noose, he had to call his mentor. And not only did she, I don't want to give too much because, you know, we got the documentary coming out, whatever, but not only was she suffering from Gangish green in her abdomen, but she was also pregnant. Wow. So she was full term with this abdominal obstruction where she had to literally like be carried miles and miles just to the nearest health facility, where they told her she had to be referred to another hospital, where she had to then be referred to the Dangla hospital. So that's a whole day of traveling just to get to the hospital, right? Wow. And then you get there, and then Dr. Amslu tells you, I have to either save your life or the baby's life. And you're like, oh, wow. Like, so she hears that, and she's like, well, you know, do what you can. I just can't take this pain anymore, right? After waking up at 10 a.m., you starting your journey to get to some type of hospital, some type of health center, to feel some type of relief after extreme pain. Like, first of all, Black women are incredibly strong. Like, that's number one, right? And her pain matters. And that's kind of this idea that, you know, we're trying to focus on, right? But she gets there, Dr. Amsu does the surgery, he removes the gangrene, right? Not only that, she wakes up days later and she's told that her baby is saved. Like, her baby is alive. That's and incredible. To me, that's like wild, right? Like, this doctor, this team of surgeons, right? Because it's just not him, right? He has a group of people that are supporting him, they're all working together to save this one life, right? They do all of this. They say this but it's like they don't have the technology we have, right? They don't have all hands on deck like we have over here, right? But somehow they're making it happen, right? Like these women's lives, these children are not only reunited with their mothers, but the mothers themselves are reunited with their community. And when you see their community, you understand like how important these women are in their community. Like, it's wild. You go over there and you bring it back here. Obviously, it's a culture shock, but I look at my mother and it brings it home to me because I'm just like, my mother had to have surgery. She was dealing with hemorrhaging herself, right? If she didn't have that,
the resources to go to,
like, what is different from over here? And you know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing different.
There is no difference. We just need to save lives.
So let the people know, how can they see the film? How can they follow, you know, your journey?
Yo, April 26th, we out here. Get ready for the premiere. We're finalizing the venue, but you will have it soon. Not only that, but you can follow us on Instagram at Caring Tomorrow. That's our actual film. And you can follow our production company, Cage Bird Films.
Awesome. Yep. Well, Caleb, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your story. We can't wait to see the doc.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll be back with more 28 Days and Beyond right after this.
And we're back on 28 Days and Beyond.
Yes, we are.
Kharisma.
Amari.
What you think?
I mean, that was just really powerful, talking about, you know, the different challenges there are for the women in that particular village in Ethiopia. But more than focusing on the challenges, just seeing how the community really came together in a way to provide services that were not readily available to them, I thought was a testament to what we should be doing here.
Yeah, I mean, as Caleb said, or says, it was wild.
It was wild.
It's wild that he was talking about. I mean, even the fact of, you know, calling somebody on FaceTime and having them walk you through the surgery, which to me is really just a matter of resourcefulness. You know, when you talk about what can be done here or in other parts of the world, I think that it's very easy to focus on what we don't have access to. But the fact is, there's nothing we can do about that. What can we do with what it is that we do have? I think that's a really powerful example. I think it's going to be a very interesting documentary that I'd love to check out.
Yeah, I think what we should be trying to do as a collective is really shift the focus. You know, here in the States, we have a lot of focus on, you know, insurance and things like that. And it's not really about making sure people have proper access to healthcare as a whole.
Right.
And even something that Caleb said where he was talking about a day of travel and having to go to these different locations. You know, it's this idea that it's more important to make people follow the proper channels or jump through hoops in a lot of senses than it is to make sure that they're being cared for. The woman could have died on the one day of travel going from place to place where she was rejected just to have to come back. You know what I mean? So just get to a place where it's more important to save lives than it is to, you know, make sure insurance companies are paid. But that's a whole nother.
No, well, you know, I think it really is, but you said, you know, not even focusing so much on the insurance, but also just healthcare in general. Yo, everybody knows the cities all across America. People who are from there, you ask them what hospital not to go to, because there's always at least one that you know what happens if people go in and they don't come out, and they go in with a headache and they, you know, end up not coming out. And a lot of that is related to, you know, access to financial resources, things like insurance and so forth.
I even had that experience when I was sick, you know, where a specialist was going to see me, and then as soon as he found out I wasn't insured, I never got phone calls, and I was literally on my deathbed. So it's insane that that's still happening. I'm here.
That's what's up. Wow, well, this has been another episode of 28 Days and Beyond,
where we talk about our history, our heritage, and our culture. We'll see you next time.